My name is Cody Kraus, and I'm a real estate broker owner that's obsessed with everything real estate. Investing, building, selling, developing, farming, you name it. I've been doing this since I was 18 years old, and I've learned a ton through trial and error, and I've met some of the coolest people ever. This is a show where I invite these people on to talk about their experiences and mine, plus everything else real estate. Let's go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Everything Real Estate Show. Today, I have with me Mr. Ralph Ciancio. And Ralph joins us from, is it Mississauga, Ralph?
No, Markham,
Markham.
close. Another
Sorry, I
M
knew it's
word.
another M
Yeah.
in the GTA. For anybody, down the 401 from my way, it's just everything's part of the
It's
GTA.
just a
So
blob, right? It's
he's
just a
from
big
Toronto
concrete blob.
somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Northeast. I say that Markham is Northeast GTA. And if you're looking at a clock, it's basically between the 12 and the 3 o'clock. Like in that, if GTA was a map and you're looking at it,
Oh,
it's just the
okay. Good to
Northeast
know.
quadrant. Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't thought of it that way before.
Yeah. And I gotta
And
tell you,
then,
you got the best pronunciation of my name. Usually people just butcher me, and that was pretty good. Ciencio. That's good.
not Ciancio.
You could say Chancho. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say you could say it two ways. You could say it, like Chan and Cho, or you can say it as four letters like CNCO.
Yeah.
So usually I say CNCO. Yeah.
Perfect. So who
Which
is
is
Ralph for
it's a
anybody that
really
doesn't
popular
know?
Mexican band. Just so you know, CNCO is
Yeah.
literally like a world. We're an CNCO. If you Google it, it's like the Justin Bieber of Latino music. Um,
Okay. And
I'm
so
like the
today we
Justin
have
Bieber
with
of
us the Mexican Justin Bieber joining us from,
in the real estate world. Yeah, like
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And Ciencio
muy
is definitely a
caliente.
Mexican name.
Yeah.
So who
Uh,
is Ralph for anybody that doesn't know Ralph?
Yeah. So first off, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you, my friend.
Yeah, of
I
course.
always feel inspired whenever we're together, and a chance to connect with you over your show is great. I'm sure the listeners really hang on to what you say because I know you put a lot of thought into what you do, and more than that, you put a lot of care. So who I am. I'm a realtor in Toronto area in Markham for the last 19 years, more or less. I'm a family man first and foremost. I've got a wife and three beautiful kids at home, and 12, 14, and 16-year-old,
Holy cow.
which really has a play in the way that I work as well. It's interesting how my career over just shy of 2 decades, how it's evolved, and the necessity for my work away from my family, and the necessity of my family which draws me away from my work. And it's kind of a really cool balance, a yin and yang. So I've
Sounds
enjoyed
like a
that.
difficult balance.
Yeah, I think it never ends. I think it's like riding a bike. You never stop balancing. You're
Yep.
always balancing. You just forget about it when you get better at it. And when you're not great at balancing is when you realize that you're about to fall.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fall and you realize I lacked balance in that moment, right?
It's a good way to
And
put it.
in life we do the same, right? Like get sick, put on 30 pounds, maritable marriage problems,
Marital.
marital something,
Yeah.
vices that creep up, and you realize this, I was out of balance, and that this is how I felt. And so I've been really focused on that balance. I don't want to fall. And so in selling real estate, I've just rounding. I think we're just at about 1,000 transactions in my career. At one point, I was running a large team or larger team of about 12 agents, and slowly I've been evolving to consolidate. So now it's almost like it's not quite a solopreneur because I've got so many people around me that help. But from an agent's point of view, as direct to consumer as possible. That's what I've been chasing, is direct to consumer. And I've got unlicensed assistants. I have some licensed assistants that help us, and really with the goal of helping people find the setting for the next chapter in their life. So what drives me is that home is where you live, and I want to help you find the best place for you to live.
Love it. So a whole bunch there. I love the balancing and the bike analogy because you're totally right. If we're out of balance, the bike falls over. And when you're sitting on the ground with a scab knee, you got to sit there and go, okay, what caused me to be out of balance here? And good time to step back and take a look. And hey, if you felt like you were getting out of balance and the bike didn't quite tip over, well, then put your feet down and correct it and change your course and move on. So like
Yeah.
that a lot. So you answered a few questions. So been in the business 19 years, always in the GTA. Now, you
Yeah.
were running a team called the Helping You Move team, and
Yeah.
I loved the name of that team. And I'm
Yeah.
sure the basis of it is still exactly what you're doing today, but you've kind of transitioned more back to the personal, like back to the roots, one on
Yeah.
one. When you're dealing with Ralph, you get Ralph, right?
Yeah. And that was a big part of it. And, the Helping You Move team was, early in my career, obviously, I was just Ralph Ciancio, a real estate agent, and I wanted to make a website. And, as we kind of joked in the intro, is that my last name is a little bit challenging to spell. Even the name Ralph can be spelled multiple ways. And I thought, I don't want to leave. And if you're driving near, Young and Highway 7, for example, and I miss the address by a little bit, I'm still in the same area.
Yep.
But in the world of digital, if you miss by one letter, you're probably in Russia somewhere on some weird like
Getting your
link
computer
site.
hacked. Yeah.
Yeah. So I realized, yeah, when designing a website and a URL, you have to make it as easy as possible. And I thought, what are people talking about when they're going through this transition of where they live? Well, they don't say, I'm going to list my home. They say, I'm going to move.
Yep.
And the core, the altruistic core of who I am, and our corporate culture is helping, right? So I thought helping you move was an easy way to communicate what we do. Unfortunately, that also implies I'm a chiropractor, implies that I'm a mover, implies like it was not clear enough. So, to shake things up, we rebranded, and here we are now.
That's funny. So you're a chiropractor helping you move?
Oh yeah, lots of them. Yeah, yeah,
That's
lots of
hilarious. Well,
chiropractic, like physiotherapists, and
did you at
so
least
that's
package up
that's
the
my
URL and
homage.
send it?
Yeah, that's so I try to keep these little tags of who we are,
Yep.
and so much goes into it, right? I mean, uh, as business owners, we are creators,
Yep.
and everything we do is kind of a piece of art. Um, a lot of thought goes into what we do. I know, Cody, for you as well. Like you guys are so thoughtful and so purposeful in the way you've run your business. We've known each other now. I must be over 10 years, more or
I think
less,
so. Yep.
somewhere around there. And I've been watching from afar. You've been, doing lots of cool things within your business and within your community. But what's new and exciting for you? I know you're asking some questions, but let me ask you.
Yeah, new and exciting on our end, not a ton. As far as the real estate market goes, it's kind of boring. And I like boring because when it's boring, it's predictable. I mean, as far as the real estate market's going here, um, you can get an offer accepted with conditions. So the buyer's protected, right? Whether that's a sale of their house or a home inspection or financing. So I think that's a great thing. The seller side of it, it's pretty easy to know what you're going to get, at least in the realm. And if you're not getting exactly what you're looking for, then you know the way to stir up activity is usually with price, or wait until the market changes. And so nothing crazy exciting, and I'm totally okay with that. I mean, my business here changed a little bit. I've stepped back from sales and really into management now, but not a whole lot's changed. It's just before my client was families that lived in houses, and now my client is real estate agents that help families that live in houses. So same kind of business, just changed, I guess, the profile of who the client was, but I still kind of do the same thing every day, and I even tag along to a lot of appointments with the agents at our office. So I love that too because I miss the old part of the job. I'm definitely a people person, but like you had said, my balance was off. So if I was a bike rider, I was lying on the ground a lot for the last
Yeah.
and take out the last 2 years, but the 3 to 7 years before that wasn't home for supper, wasn't home for bedtime with the kids. I'm doing a pretty good job as far as real estate agents go, and things were good in that regard professionally, but personally things were out of balance at home. So
Yeah.
changed things up a little bit. Things are a lot more in balance now, and enjoying a good work-life balance and having fun every day. So,
Yeah, you can get so much further when you can do this longer,
yep,
right? When you do this for a short while, a sprint, the wheels fall off. And I know you're a family man at heart, so I know that those are non-negotiables. Is the way that the way you serve your family. When we talk about balance, one of the analogies that I use is like in motocross. I mean, those guys are riding those motorcycles, not motocross, but whatever, the motorcycle racing. They're really leaning. Their knee is like touching the ground, like you're an inch from the ground at
yep,
300 kilometers an hour.
like
And that's
MotoGP. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's designed to help travel as fast as possible. Sometimes you have to get down low that far out of balance. But what I say is if you stayed in that same position, you would end up in a circle. And you end up back exactly where you actually end up further behind where you were,
Yep.
right? And that's why you have to do balance of extreme left and extreme right and then neutral in the middle. Sometimes I go extreme left, right? There's times that, selling season for us is the spring. There's a lot of demands from our work. And then there's times like now, we're recording this end of December, mid-December. Um, I get some time to lean right and be with family and work on the business.
Yeah, it's good. Now, what's the market like in Markham right now?
Yeah, it depends. I always say it really depends if you're buying or selling. The market is always great. Depends on which side of the fence you're on. Right now, it's definitely a buyer's market. Medium levels of inventory, not crazy high. So medium, but the demand from buyers is quite low. And part of the fact that the buyer's demand is quite low is that each buyer, 80% of the time, is also a seller.
Yep.
So since nobody's home is sold, nobody's out there buying. So
Yep.
we're seeing downward pressure on prices. We're seeing long and even some crazy conditions that sellers are accepting. Um, and that's just the nature of the market. I think a lot of people see uncertainty in the economy, and for that reason, they're feeling, I shouldn't move, right?
Now, the one thing I find like watching the housing market about, call it the GTA, and I feel like the GTA is the only market in all of Canada that matters because that's what all the news is based off of. But it's also like, I don't know, 40 or 50% of the country's realtors. And I mean, 7 million out of 42 million people too. So 1/6 of the population, right? But like when you talk to most people about the housing market, it seems like it's defined by the condo market right now. But like that would be Toronto, and I know there's other markets around Toronto that have condos too, but not as heavy, I would imagine, as the city itself. Like, what is the market makeup in Markham between, I guess, semis, single families,
Yeah,
condos, and then is the market that you're describing where it's definitely a buyer's market? Is that true in all segments there, or is that really
yeah.
more focused on the condos?
So I would say that Markham itself, again, we are probably 30 kilometers from Toronto city center. And you know, I guess if from I guess so you're set up in Kingsville. I guess would the equivalent be Tecumseh,
Yeah, something like that.
or something like that. I don't, depends on your. I'm sure your listeners are all over, but 30 kilometer drive to Toronto proper. So we've always been kind of like the sleepy suburbs of Toronto,
Yep.
mostly single family detached homes. The vast majority in Markham, Stouffville, Richmond Hill, and then some of the newer products, homes built after the 2000s were the semi-detached townhomes, and then homes built after 2010 onward would be more condos, more towers, which we've seen just essentially densification, right?
Went single
Throughout the
family, the
market.
semis and towns, and then now to condos. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say still, as like empirically, it's more than anything, it's single detached homes, single family detached homes that make up the inventory. So when we talk about the impact of condo market, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it. My statement of it being a buyer's market is true on all product types, but
Okay.
most true with the condo market. The condo market is just so saturated with inventory and the demand is so low. And there's a couple of like really anchor ideas or ideology why I believe the condo market is just tanking. Not as much for the detached homes, but still a buyer's market.
Okay. Now, who is it that's buying in that area right now? Like in Markham, like Toronto's got to be a different buyer than Markham. Is it people who work
Yeah.
in Toronto? Does Markham have
So
industry? Is it a bedroom community?
so Markham itself has about 370,000 people in it. So a fair size. It's considered a city. Yeah, it's the tech capital for Canada, and there's a lot of innovation in business. We have Tesla here, we have Google, we've got other huge Nvidia. Like any of the big tech names, all have offices here in Markham.
Interesting.
Uh, I think the key driver for Markham, I mean, we have a higher than average population from people from Asia. Mainland China immigrated to Markham. I mean, Hong Kong population or people from Hong Kong in the mid '90s, early '90s came. There was a big push to come to Canada, and a lot of them came to Markham and surrounding area. In the mid 2000s, was from mainland China, and a lot of them were just coming here for the same reason most people came to Canada, as a better life for their family, better life for their kids, and then a place where they had some familiarity. So one family moves into a community, they like it, they report home that this is a great place to live, and then when their family wants to leave whatever country they're coming from, they're going to go where they at least have a cousin, an uncle, a parent,
Yep.
a friend. And then so you see this kind of sprouting of this mushroom effect. And this is not new. This has been happening. I mean, my parents came here in the mid 70s, and they came because one uncle from Argentina had come into Toronto. He liked it. My dad came to visit, and he says, "Oh, I
I
like where
could
you
live
live. I'm going
here.
to move here."
Yeah.
And then, 20 other families followed my dad. So that's natural.
Yep.
So who is buying now is a different question than who was buying. Because I think we had a disproportionate amount of foreign buyers buying in Markham compared to right now. Right now, it's a ban. There's a foreign buyers ban. It's technically illegal for a foreign buyer to buy real estate in Canada, and that I think put just a huge depression on the market. When we look at real estate as a game of musical chairs, you see this balance between buyers and sellers, right? 6 7 for anybody. Does this People are gonna watch this? My kids are gonna they're gonna 6 7.
Yeah, I got a
uh
6-year-old son. I don't know what it means, but I see it
is
all
he
the time.
6 or 7? He's like 6 7, something like
Yeah.
that. When we look at the balance between buyers and sellers, uh, if we looked at it as a game of musical chairs, if Ralph wants to go to play musical chairs and I bring a chair with me and I want to play the game, I leave my chair and I go around, I take someone else's chair. Well, I produced the chair to the game, and I also consumed a chair to the game. I had no impact on the intensity of the game. Now imagine if 7 other people show up to the game of musical chairs without chairs. So they're not chair producers, they're just chair consumers.
Yep.
The game gets way more intense. And that's what foreign buyers did, is they were net consumers of real estate. Whereas everyone else that's just buying and selling, they are neutral. They add a property to the market when they list their home, and they consume a property on the market when they buy a home. The net impact on the demand is zero.
Yeah.
When you see a builder, huge builder buys a farm, and that's one property they buy, they consume one, they split it up into 400 houses, they supply 400. So net is a 399 plus. So what we've seen over the last few years, I'd say 3 to 5 years, is that builders were buying a lot and splitting them up into multiple units, or buying a condo land and building a 400 unit condo. So they were net suppliers of the market. But because we did not have any foreign or new Canadians coming in, we saw this just musical chairs as just net supply, net supply, net supply.
Yeah. It's a good way to look at it. And like obviously there were some people playing the musical chairs game and they were like, all of a sudden there's way more people than chairs. You know what? And they can't all afford to buy chairs. So what if we build like 400 chairs and go get the
Yeah.
government to finance these chairs and then we'll rent them these chairs. They won't live in these chairs, but they'll rent these chairs too.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of temporary chairs brought to the game. And now, frankly, a lot of the people that were here permanently are going to stay here. They've got chairs now. But the people that were here for a temporary period of time, whether it was student visas or work visas or just going to try it out and then see if I want to apply for PR or whatever, a lot of them have returned home, at least from what I've seen here in Windsor, Essex. I don't know if that's true to the rest of Ontario, but I
Yeah.
think the
Very
chairs
true.
looked better from afar.
And the student visas closing up has been, I'd say, pretty close to catastrophic for segments of the market, which include, post-secondary. Like I've got a few clients that work in the, huge post-secondary organizations, like different universities and colleges. I won't name any specific names, but like namesakes, and they're closing down divisions, departments, consolidating because they're just losing so much money without these student visas. Now,
Yeah.
students, when they're here, they eat food, they drive cars, they buy groceries, they are contributing to the overall economy. Since we shut that out, there's now a huge gap in terms of um, the economic impact that they would have made,
Yeah.
right?
Outside of real estate, there's a
Yeah,
whole nother animal there. Yeah.
yeah. And when we look at the number of new Canadians, how are like you and I were at a conference where we're listening to the chief economist from CIBC talk about migration and how the biggest that the do you remember what he said, Benjamin Tall?
Yeah, he said 52% of new Canadians. What country do you think they're actually coming from when they get that approval? And everybody had a country in mind that starts with an I. And he said they're already here. They're pl applying from within Canada. They're already here on a visa of some
They're
kind.
Canadian. They're in Canada. So
Yeah.
52% of people getting Canadian citizenship are already in Canada. So when we look at the overall demand of goods, the economic push, it's not like we brought a new consumer to that the consumer was already in Canada. It's just
Already
changed the
consuming.
status.
Yep.
Yes. So it's like a fake number. So if they say we brought in 400,000 people, no, you didn't. You brought in 200,000 people and 200,000 were already here. Now, the other number that I've never seen, and I would love to dig around, is how many people actually left. So we talk about like the real estate shift and downturn in the real estate market and catastrophic condo market in different pockets throughout the country. And it's not like that everywhere. We know that there's some very strong markets right now, like Alberta's on fire.
The
Some
prairies,
of the provinces, yeah, on fire, and it's going to keep going.
Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Montreal is one of the top highest increases for 2025. But when we look at the net migration, you say, well, these are people that all left the country, right? I've never sold in the last 18 months. I have sold the most, head and shoulders above, the most amount of homes for people that are leaving the country. I
Interesting.
I, I sell their family home and they take off.
Not coming back. We're maybe not
That's somebody
important,
that
but
that's somebody that left the chair at the game.
yeah,
We talk about the musical chairs. They just left the game, but they left their chair there. That's a net supplier, makes the game way less competitive.
maybe not important, but just curious, on average, were they citizens or were they here
Oh yeah,
on,
yeah. No. These are people, except for two. Two of them were here like on work visas. They didn't like their outlook here, and they said, "I'm going to go somewhere else."
yeah,
But the rest of them, I'm talking probably somewhere between 12 and 15 families that most of them went to the United States. Some of them went to Central America,
yeah,
one or two in Europe. And these are people that I'm talking about, like a Canadian family. Doesn't matter their origin, but they are Canadian. They were here for 20, 30 years, kids here. Wedding took place with their kids coming down the stairs, the house they grew up in. And now they said, I'm gone. So,
I'm guessing upper middle class paid a lot
yeah,
in taxes, felt they weren't getting, a
yeah.
fair return for the investment that they're making in their taxes. It's interesting. We had that here in 21 and 22. So we had a ton of families move from our area to Mexico and Texas, just tired of all the COVID stuff. So they said, we're out of here. Um, it's funny. I was working out with a guy the other day, and he's from Nicaragua, and it's freezing here. And we're like, dude, why'd you move from Nicaragua to Canada? Like, most people are thinking about going from Canada to Nicaragua right now, or Canada to Mexico,
Mm,
or Costa Rica, Panama, whatever. And we're joking back and forth, but the reality is most people come from those areas to here for opportunity to work and to get ahead. Then they got to send the money back home or eventually
yeah,
want to become Canadian, right? And so then you have all these Canadians going, man, things look pretty good down there. But the thing is,
yeah,
it's hard to keep money down there. So if you sell your house here, you have a bunch of equity, you go down there, if you don't have another job or another business or something down there, it's hard to keep that money. And if people find out that you have money in a third world country, it's not really a safe thing either. So
yeah.
I know there's a lot of people doing research on which countries are safest havens. all that kind of stuff right now. Do we keep the Canadian, tax residency or do we give it up and go to Panama? I know a lot of people are trying the E2 visas right now, buying businesses and investing money in the States to expedite the citizenship process and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It's interesting. As many times as I said to my wife over the whole COVID thing, like, Paige, I'm ready to go. Let's head down to Florida. She's like, what would you do once you get there? And I said, well, I'd probably say I miss everybody from here and then move back to Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. And you know what? I've got a ton of respect for anyone that left something they knew for a chance on something they didn't. When I see new Canadians here, could be from anywhere in the world, I've got a ton of respect for them to say that they packed up what they had and they're going to just give it a go in Canada. And that's why I'm so frustrated with our political system, and that I feel like we should be welcoming in more people into this country. Who are we to shut the door? Right? Our goal is to get to 100 million people by 2021, by 2100. And I think that we have so much land and so much opportunity. I think that we should be letting more people in, hardworking people that want to contribute, not just financially, they want to contribute to the community. I think we should be vetting people very carefully. I don't think we should be an easy out
Yeah.
for troublemakers. And there's a reason why there's the American dream. You have the pursuit of happiness and freedom, and it's just an ideology that attracted people from around the world. Right? I'm able to pursue happiness. I'm able to be free, and I feel like slowly. I know that's not the ideology in Canada, but we borrowed a lot of it. I just feel like we're more restricted and more bogged down and more like I don't want to turn this into a negative thing. I mean, I love
No,
where I
it's all
live.
good. I
It's
mean,
just
none of us would be here in Canada if it wasn't for our ancestors moving here at some point, right? Sounds like your parents for me. It was my grandparents, my great grandparents. But
yeah,
yeah, you gotta respect the fact that someone's willing to give up what they knew in hopes of something better. Now, whether they found it to be better or not, they made that call, and a lot of them stuck it out, and so here we are today. 100 million, sure. By what year? I don't know. I would say the one thing that we obviously should have learned from the period of like 2019 to 2023 is that there's no problem with population growth as long as we have somewhere for everybody to live that's coming in and the people that are already here, right? And and I know that all of a sudden seeing population growth to 2 or 3% strictly from immigration was not the most responsible thing when we didn't have somewhere for them to live. And that's the problem that we're in today. But when you turn off that tap totally, it can be detrimental to the people holding the bag, right? So the developers that
yeah,
were putting up all this product and well, this is the bike, right? The government doesn't know how to ride the bike. The government needs
no,
training wheels right now, and
oh,
eventually
definitely,
they'll be able to ride the bike again too. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, full trip back to the beginning of our conversation there. But so I guess on the investor side of it, so you have like it sounds like the people that are moving right now it's their primary residence. They're either selling their primary residence and getting out of Dodge, or they're playing musical chairs. Maybe you have someone with a house selling to buy or rent an apartment. Maybe you have a move up family going from their starter home to their second home, that kind of stuff. That's mostly the people that are moving right now. Do you really see any active investors in the market?
We haven't seen investors come back into the market. We've seen investors exit the market, mass exodus over the last 4 years
Yeah.
of investors selling off their properties, saying, I'm not into this anymore, partly due to increase in taxes, instability on things like people don't realize when the government says, by the way, we're going to increase capital gains tax by double or whatever the number was. It'll go from 50% to 66%, right? A 50% increase. Is that right? Even more.
Yeah. Oh,
30%, and
well,
maybe a little less, maybe 35%, whatever the number was. It was a huge increase in the cost
you're
of tax for,
32%. Yeah.
yeah, 32% increase. People don't realize if we're playing football and we start off the game and we're all in the huddle about to do kickoff and all the rules are set and I got to make it 100 yards down the line to get a touchdown. And then midway through the game, midway through my challenge, midway through my training, midway through my all the work I put into it, I get to the 20-yard line and they say, "Oh no, actually it's 150 yards. We changed it." Nobody wants to play that game. People say, "I don't want to play with you anymore. Take my ball and I'm going to go home." when you start manipulating the rules for people that are, doing something for, for business, for there's an economic gain, they say, I'm going to pick another game to play because real estate has its challenges. And, in Ontario, we have the Landlord Tenant Act, which has a huge stronghold on what investors can and can't do. We've seen
Yeah.
just a little bit of repeat just recently with some of the changes that are proposed. That I don't think they've come into effect yet. Um, but I mean, does that affect you guys quite a bit, like the
The Bill
changes in the Landlord Tenant
60.
Act? Yeah,
So I was talking with my paralegal about this the other day. Like we run a small property management company, and he actually teaches at the local college here. And so he had a lot of students that were going, you know what, this is bogus. They're going to make a whole bunch of people, homeless, all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, no, actually, this is meant to expedite the bad landlords and the bad tenants. That's what this is meant to do. And he said, going from 14 days to 7 days as far as the non-payment of rent notice, that's nothing when your time to get a hearing is 5 to 6 months. 1 week relative to 5 months is like well,
yeah,
1/28th,
right.
1/30th, right? Like it's a change, but it's not a huge change. The one part of it where it was you have to pay half your rent before you can have the
Yeah,
hearing. I think that was a good thing because there seems to be press coverage on one side of this, which is this is much better for the landlords. But what people forget is what's better for the good landlords is also better for the good tenant. So if there was a whole bunch of hearing times being wasted by tenants that are not good tenants taking up the adjudicator's time in the LTB and then pushing all the other matters out, it's not just hurting the landlords and benefiting the professional tenants. It's actually hurting the good tenants that have legitimate matters that they're trying to bring up against bad landlords. And so, whenever you make changes to the system, who it helps is the people on both sides that are trying to do things the right way,
you
right? And
nailed it.
like, I've been a landlord for 10 years now. 85, 90% of my tenants, amazing people. We haven't had to be at the LTB. They paid their rent because I provided them a good house to live in. If there was an issue, they would let me know about it. I'd take care of it. Therefore, we didn't have to go into the court system, right?
Yeah,
And I wouldn't say that we've had, no LTB matters that were unwarranted. There were some that were unwarranted. Again, people that don't understand the system that are now causing delays for everybody else that legitimately need the system. Um, but this was a good thing overall. And I don't see that just as a landlord. I'm looking at the tenant side of it too, because I have to be impartial. We represent tenants in real estate. We're on that property management side of it also. So we see both sides of it. But when you allow things that aren't relative to a matter to be brought up in a court setting, it delays the whole process. And then you have good people that actually get hurt because the whole thing got pushed out and delayed.
absolutely right. You absolutely nailed it. That was very well put. Ultimately, I'm an economist at heart. I have a degree in economics with a major in real estate. And when I look at these changes, I think anything that strengthens or levels the playing field for landlords is actually extremely positive for
Yeah.
tenants. Because what's happened is over the last 3 years in specific, 3 or 4 years, a landlord who owned 10 properties says, I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm going to sell off seven of them.
That's this guy.
You sold off seven of them. So now what's the demand and supply for rental properties? There are now seven that are owned by a family that owns them individually, and they are now homeowners, not tenants.
Yeah, they
So now
weren't
there's
sold to other landlords, just
no,
to
because
confirm
no
that.
landlords are buying them. Yeah, no landlord are buying them. If it's a bad deal for me, the landlord, it's gonna be a bad deal for you, the landlord.
Yeah.
So what happens is you're getting this shift, this movement from rental inventory to home ownership inventory. So now there's way less properties for people to rent. You know,
Yep.
and you look in Alberta, the landlord tenant relationship is governed totally differently than the province of Ontario. And landlords have tons of power. But you know what? Rents are not through the roof because there's so much supply that, from a landlord's point of view, you say, oh, that's great. In Alberta, if the tenant doesn't pay, you can kick them out immediately. And landlords feel great about that. They feel their investment is safe and they're protected and respected by the system. So they go in and they buy. And now the tenants have this benefit of there's so much inventory. And you know what? If you don't take care of the property, I'm going to leave because there's another one across the street I can get for
I got
$10 cheaper.
options. Yep. Yeah,
Here in Canada, in Ontario, they don't have an option because it's what we've done is we've voluntarily we allow people voluntarily, landlords, more of them, the quality landlords, to leave. Now we have a greater concentration of slumlord landlords, the ones that are the bad guys in the system that are really pushing limits and doing things illegally. And it's not fair for just a regular family who's trying to rent and find a place for them to live, a safe place, and they're in a pond of sharks. They're not in an ocean of sharks anymore because the water shrunk so much that there's just a pond and higher concentration of sharks.
yeah, the trend that I see is the landlords that had single family rentals are selling them and they're going to owner occupants. And that's a great thing for the people that are, getting to use that inventory for their family. But who it is hurting is the tenant that would have wanted to rent that house because now the appeal is gone. When the pendulum swings so far to the tenant's favor that the landlord then feels punished for trying to, you know,
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
he's got a product he's selling. I have a house. I'd like you to occupy my house. It's a product or a service, however you want to look at it. He's selling something, and there's a tenant that needs it. I want to live in your house, right? But when you punish all the landlords, they're all going to leave. They're going to become owner occupied. Now, who is the landlord that's entering the market? Because we do have a lot of new rentals entering the market, but it's all built for purpose rentals because the mom and pop landlords got so burned, they said, we're out of here. And the only way it looks attractive to large scale institutional investors like REITs and large investment companies, private equity, whoever is all of a sudden the government had to offer 40, 45, 50-year terms with 95.5 LTV financing. But if I'm a family with two kids and we, haven't saved up enough or we got Bruce credit, we can't buy a home yet, we want to rent something and there's no houses and the only option's an apartment, might work for the short term, but it's not ideal for the long term. And then also when you're renting from an institutional investor, let's call it a REIT, every 12 months, they can and will raise the rents. They have to go back to their shareholders and say, hey, this is what we're doing here, all that kind of stuff. Do you think that if you have a really good relationship with your mom and pop landlord as a tenant and you go, hey, you know what, I'm really having a tough time this year. Like Sally lost her job and you know what, I've been cut back on hours. The economy's tough. It is what it is. We'd love to stay renting here. The reality is we can't afford that price increase right now. Would you be willing to let it go for another 3 months or 6 months? Do you think there's a case for that with the mom and pop landlord? I think there's a pretty good chance if the relationship has been positive up until that point. I've gone multiple years on some of my rentals without raising the rents because we have a really good relationship with the tenants, and we're always taking a look at what our rents are compared to market. And we want to be careful that we wouldn't lose a good tenant over an extra couple percent, even though our bills
Hmm.
are going up. But when you're representing a pool of 10,000 investors, you don't care about that. You're raising the
Well,
rents.
agreed. And if we take a look from a step back or 30,000 feet up, and we look at the socio-economic impact that this will make, not today, I'm talking about stretching over time, we begin to create ghettos. So then now imagine family A goes and rents a condo unit in a traditional condo apartment that an investor bought, and we'll call that 123 Jane Street. And that family rents a unit inside a regular building. That's mom and pop. Mom and pop's all left. That landlord sold it to an end user. That unit is no longer available for rent.
Yeah.
Well, across the street on 123 Wilson Street, there's a purpose built rental building where a REIT or government or half government type corporation rents out the entire building. And that family moves into that property. Well, who are they hanging out with? They're hanging out with other people that are in tough financial situation. Whereas the person living in the condo may be living next to a tech startup. That's their neighbor, that's their friend. And when they go big, they get a job working in their company. Whereas in the rental building, I'm generalizing, it's not guaranteed that they're all in a tough place. But the ones where you have to prove your income in order to qualify for the rent, and prove it being like you have to qualify on the lower end, you now you apply for a job and you say, well, what's your address? What's a 123 Wilson Street? Well, maybe that application gets pushed to the side because it's known to be a building and whatever stigmatization is created there. So it's the ghetto the creation of ghettos is what we're doing again. And we moved away from that, as a society for the last 50 years. And, integration. And that's probably the best way for people to get out of a difficult situation is to surround themselves by other people that are
Yeah.
outside of their circle.
Yeah, and the rising tide can lift all boats, but when the tide goes up, it can dry everything out too, right? And so same thing when you're in a community and living in an area where everyone's trying to help each other, they're, taking care of each other's kids if they got shift work, like if you're getting to know your neighbors, but awesome. You're rooted, you know who your neighbors are, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, in the rental scenario, you often have a lot of turnover, whether that's because
Yeah.
ownership changed on the building, didn't necessarily line up with, you know what, I had hoped that I was going to live here for 10 years, but the reality is the scenario of the owner could change before the reality of the tenant could change. So that's why obviously there's stability associated with ownership.
Mm-hmm.
But that can create a whole bunch of socioeconomic problems. Like you talked about, all of a sudden these gaps just start appearing and then they end up getting deeper and wider. And I feel like we've done so much to prevent that over the last couple decades. Now it's almost going to come back on accident, to your
Yeah.
point, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky. And I think that there's a lot of fires that need to be put out within, the way our countries run right now, and hopefully good decisions will be made moving forward. Um, but I think we have to learn from our mistakes. We have to learn from what we've done in the past,
Yeah.
and to create buildings where there's, what they call it, rent geared to income. And those buildings, I mean, it becomes a very dangerous trap. It becomes a trap for those people as well, right? And so I don't know. I think owning real estate is also a great vehicle to gain wealth, in a sense, passively, but steadily over time. I think owning real estate is a fantastic idea always.
Yeah.
I think the less red tape and the more free the economy is. Adam Smith, economist, says there's an invisible hand that moves the market left and right, and that's the pressures of the economy, and we just need to let that hand be free. Some people will get into trouble and they're supposed to get into trouble, and some people will make profits and they're supposed to make profits. That's the invisible hand, right?
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned passive. Passive is rewarded in the States, right? We reward productivity with tax allocations like the 1031 exchange and all that kind of stuff. In Canada, we punish passive, and it's taxed at a higher rate than anything else. So there's actually more incentive for you to go to work and then not try and create
Yeah.
wealth outside of
Yeah.
your 9 to 5. We
Yeah.
punish passive incomes in Canada.
And we seem to punish success. It's tricky to see that the harder you work, the more taxes you pay. And I never really understood that. I understand we should all be paying our fair share, but it creates a disincentive for people. And I think that slowly that's what's happened in Canada, is that people are disincentivized to try hard. But consumerism is also spiked as well, which no one ever talks about. People
Yeah.
always say, "Oh, I can't afford." Uh, People say, I can't afford to save up for a new place. Well, let's take a look at your budget first. Before we start throwing stones at the cost of borrowing or the cost of real estate, let's take a look at, what age is your iPhone, right? I don't think you have a right to complain about financing if you have a iPhone 16, 17, 15, right?
The
You have to, I
the
know it's unpopular comment, but
Uh, the hey, you got an opinion. It is what it is. But you're right. What's your priority? And if your priority is shelter, I mean that's one of the pillars that most families need, right? But to reference the Ben Talchat that you were talking about, the CIBC presentation in
yeah,
Toronto that we were at the other day, or not Toronto, Vaughan. Sorry, not to generalize the whole GTA under one umbrella again for the
I
second
know we
time
all
this
look the
show.
same to you. I know.
Yeah. He said he was talking to Olivia Chow, the mayor of Toronto, and basically, how much do you count on development charges contributing to the city of Toronto? And she said, well, approximately $75,000 per building permit. Who knows how many building permits they were going to have, right? And he said, okay, well, I don't have my calculator with me, but what's $75,000 for times zero? Uh, because it's great to have a huge development charge if there's a ton of permits. But if nobody's building because they can't afford it because the development charges are way too high along with all the other taxes, like it's great getting, a small piece of a big pie when there's lots of pie to go around. But when the pie's running out, guess what? you're going to need, you want a big piece now of a small pie? Guess what? There's nothing left. There's only so much you can take before there's an empty pie tray sitting there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know if we're going to solve all of today's problems in one show. I do apologize though. I have to run. I'm just
Yeah,
helping
let's do it.
run a financial literacy program for some youth in Leamington. So I got to run
Okay.
over and put on
What
that
what
class
what is
today.
that? What is that called?
So it's based off of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. And so I was
Amazing. I
lucky
love
enough
that.
to get put through that when I was 18 by my mentor, Tim Mercer. And his church was putting on the program, and I went through it again just recently so that I could become reacquainted with it and put it on at a youth center in our community. So speaking of economics,
Which school in Leamington are you at?
so it's at the Bridge Youth Center. So it's actually not a
Amazing.
school; it's something any youth can
Yeah.
go to.
Amazing.
But
I'm just getting involved with junior achievement, which is
awesome.
same idea, financial literacy for youth.
I think it's so important right now. And the stuff that we teach in school, there's a lot of it that's important. There's a lot of it that's not going to be relevant to what they do in the future at all. The one they don't spend a lot of time on is financial literacy. And we all need a job. We all got to pay taxes. We all got to contribute. We all got to eat. We all got to live. And if there's not time devoted to that, we're setting people up for failure, I think.
Systematic failure.
Yeah. So,
My friend, this
anyways,
has been a great honor. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, and thanks for doing this for the community. We all appreciate it.
likewise. Thanks so much, Ralph. Appreciate you coming on. Take care, buddy. See ya.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the show, folks. Please keep in mind that this show is not offering legal, financial, or accounting advice, but rather opinions and experiences in the world of real estate from the host and the guests. If you're enjoying the show, please rate, review, and share with your friends and colleagues. And if you think that there's someone that needs to be on this show, please feel free to connect them with me. Or if there's a topic that should be discussed, feel free to let me know. Thank you so much, and bye for now.